The WNBA didn't just hit a disagreement, it hit a wall. And the league didn't slow down before impact, it slammed straight into it. When Commissioner Kathy Engelbert announced that collective bargaining talks were essentially over, the statement sounded calm on the surface. But behind those words was panic.
WNBA finals, and so I'll leave it there. I mean, I'm just obviously disheartened. You know, I'm a human too. I have a family. I have 2 kids who are devastated by these comments, and so all I'll say is just, you know, it's obviously been...
Because this wasn't a normal labor dispute. This was the first time in WNBA history that the league realized it might actually lose control. And at the center of it all wasn't a union vote, a protest, or a walkout. It was a refusal. Quiet, calculated, and far more dangerous. To understand why this moment is so explosive, you have to understand how fragile the WNBA's balance of power really is. For years, the league operated in survival mode. Growth was slow, margins were thin, and the message to players was always the same. Be patient, be grateful, things will improve eventually. The 2020 CBA was built on that mindset. It assumed limited revenue, modest visibility, and a future that depended on incremental progress. Then Caitlin Clark arrived, and that entire framework collapsed overnight. Ratings didn't just rise, they spiked. Arenas didn't just fill, they sold out. Ticket prices tripled in cities she visited. Media coverage exploded. Networks that once treated the WNBA as filler content suddenly started bidding against each other. The league went from fighting for relevance to sitting on the edge of a media deal worth billions. The business model changed faster than anyone expected, except the contracts didn't. Players were still locked into an agreement designed for a league that no longer existed. Salaries were capped, revenue sharing was delayed, travel conditions lagged behind the attention they were now receiving. And while the commissioner stood at podiums celebrating historic growth, the players knew they wouldn't see most of that money for years, if ever. That contradiction didn't just cause frustration, it created resentment. Inside locker rooms, conversations shifted. Veterans who had endured years of sacrifice watched the league suddenly find money when it suited them. Younger stars who came from the NIL era knew exactly what their market value looked like. And everyone started asking the same question: if the league is swimming in cash, why are we still being treated like part-time labor? But frustration alone doesn't change power dynamics. Leverage does. For a long time, the league believed it held all the cards. It controlled the schedule, the marketing machine, and the platform. Players could complain, but the system assumed they would ultimately comply. That assumption shattered when reports surfaced that the league approached its biggest stars with new promotional initiatives. They wanted documentaries, campaigns, appearances, access. They wanted to monetize this moment as aggressively as possible, and that's when they hit resistance. Caitlin Clark didn't hold a press conference. She didn't post a statement. She didn't accuse anyone publicly. She simply stopped cooperating. Under the current terms, she reportedly declined to participate in the league's expanded marketing push. No endorsements, no extra access, no free promotion for a system she believed was undervaluing her. It was a silent strike. And it worked. By disengaging, Clark froze the league's ability to capitalize on its biggest asset. You can't sell the future of the WNBA without the face of the future. And suddenly, the league realized it couldn't force compliance without exposing the imbalance it was trying to hide. That refusal put Commissioner Engelbert in an impossible position. Publicly, she had to appear firm. Internally, she was facing pressure from owners, sponsors, and media partners who were terrified of losing momentum. Declaring negotiations over wasn't just an update, it was a defensive move, a way to reclaim authority, a signal that the league wouldn't be pushed around by player power, but it was also a gamble. Because shutting down talks doesn't weaken players if they're unified. It weakens the product. At the heart of this dispute is a revenue model that no longer makes sense. In the NBA, players receive roughly half of basketball-related income. When the league grows, players automatically benefit. The WNBA doesn't work that way. Revenue sharing only triggers after the league hits specific targets that were nearly unreachable before Clark arrived. Now that those numbers are finally within sight, players are realizing something uncomfortable. The targets were never designed to be fair. Expenses are structured in ways that keep the shared pot small. Growth exists, but access to that growth is delayed, capped, or conditional. Clark understands the math. Why help generate hundreds of millions more if your compensation barely moves? The equation is broken, and she's refusing to solve it for them. And then there's the wild card that changed everything, the unrivaled league. For the first time, WNBA players have a legitimate alternative, a league offering six-figure salaries, equity, and control. No long travel schedules, no outdated structures, no pretending there isn't enough money. For stars like Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier, it's a business opportunity. For someone like Clark, it's leverage. She doesn't need the WNBA to be famous. She doesn't need it to be wealthy. That reality flips the negotiating table completely. The commissioner isn't bargaining with players who have nowhere else to go. She's negotiating with athletes who already have packed bags and backup plans. The timing couldn't be worse for the league. The Players Association officially opted out of the CBA, which was expected. But instead of collaborative language and optimism, the league responded with finality. That suggests the initial demands, likely influenced by Clark's camp, were seen as unacceptable. Charter flights for everyone, significant salary increases, possibly even retroactive compensation for recent seasons. Owners who were accustomed to operating a league that lost money balked at the price. But fans didn't. Public perception has shifted dramatically. The old argument that the WNBA doesn't make money no longer works. Fans see the sold-out arenas, they see the sponsorships, they see the media deals. So when negotiations are halted, it doesn't look like fiscal responsibility, it looks like greed. And Caitlin Clark has become the symbol of that shift. She's not just a player anymore, she's a movement. By refusing to play along with the gratitude narrative, she's exposed how out of touch the league's leadership is with its new reality. And that makes her incredibly dangerous to anyone trying to maintain the status quo. The league reportedly floated the idea of a temporary bridge deal, a short-term agreement to keep things calm until the new media money fully arrives. Clark's refusal to support that approach likely killed it. Bridge deals favor ownership. They delay transparency. They buy time. And players are done waiting. That's why the charter flight issue matters so much. For years, players were told private travel was impossible. Then suddenly, when Clark arrived, the league found $25 million overnight. That wasn't progress. It was proof. Proof that money was always there, it just wasn't prioritized. That betrayal of trust is the foundation of this conflict. Now the league is staring down a potential lockout. And it would be catastrophic. Networks would revolt, sponsors would panic, fans would drift away. Engelbert knows this, but she's betting that financial pressure will break the union first, that lower-tier players can't afford to miss paychecks. That strategy only works if the union fractures. And right now, it isn't. Clark's refusal to take a personal side deal has unified the locker room. Bench players want higher floors, stars want fair shares, everyone wants respect. Rumors of a solidarity fund suggest top earners are preparing to support those who need it most. If true, it neutralizes ownership's strongest weapon, fear. This dispute doesn't stop at the current roster. It threatens the future pipeline. College stars are watching closely. Why rush into a league in chaos when overseas options or alternative leagues exist? Recruitment suffers. Momentum stalls. Reputations linger. And legally, the league may have overplayed its hand. Declaring talks over without genuine impasse opens the door to bad faith claims. The Players Association knows this. Lawyers are watching every word. This isn't just a sports story anymore, it's a legal one. Internally, owners are divided. Legacy owners fear spending. New owners see opportunity. Clark's refusal exploits that split. The progressive owners want her on the floor. They don't want a lockout. And that pressure is building behind closed doors. The league may try to smear the players as ungrateful, they may leak stories, paint Clark as a diva, but that's risky. Her fame predates the WNBA. She didn't need the league to become a brand. If they push that narrative, they risk a fan revolt. This moment represents a generational shift. Athletes raised in the NIL era don't operate on gratitude, they operate on value. Clark knows exactly what she's worth, and she's forcing the league to confront a truth it's been avoiding. The WNBA is standing at a crossroads. It can evolve into a modern league that shares power and profit, or it can cling to an outdated model and watch its momentum collapse. And the most unsettling part for the league? Caitlin Clark hasn't even said anything yet.